Alright, just a quick one here, hopefully cover a couple things. So I gotta get these bearings back on and get this thing back together tomorrow. Conveniently, there is a video on how to press bearings back onto this axle, but when I looked I could not find one on how to take them off. And it's not as straightforward as you might think, or at least not as I thought. Replacing the bearings on the RX7, and they were pretty worn out because they've been beaten on for years. But what you have to do, if they can't be pressed off easily, which I'm assuming they can't because mine couldn't, is cut them off. And if you look at the other video, the bearing, I can actually spin the inner race of this bearing. It's not on there very tight at all, but this collar that holds it on is on there really good. And according to the manual, they say if it takes more than 10 tons of pressure to get it off, you're supposed to cut it. And I've got a 12-ton press, and I was reefing on that thing more than I felt comfortable doing, so cutting it off was the next option. Unfortunately, I'd already had the bearings ordered, and I was running out of time before the next event, and I did not have these collars ordered. Luckily, I was able to get them just in time from the other side of the country. Thanks, Benson. And so what you've got to do is, first of all, you've got to cut off the outer race of this bearing so you can get at it. What I used is just a 45 grinder, angle grinder with, you can't focus because you're dumb, a 1/8 blade on it, because I don't have cutting discs, and makes it easier. You can see in there and see if you're getting close focus or not. Anyway, so you got to cut out the outer race and pull out the seals and ball bearings so they're not in your way. And then what you got to do is basically blue line this, or not quite blue line, but get it ground most of the way through, and then you can take a chisel and spread it apart and it'll come off pretty easily. Then you should be able to either press or just pull the bearing off with no effort. The first one I had to hit with the chisel a couple times to get it loosened up. The other one, I actually cut it close enough and got it hot enough that it split on its own, and as soon as I stopped cutting, it just let go and it was all loose. So that's the rundown. One added tidbit is if you have, at least my car came with this stupid, this used to go all the way through, and this is what holds your brake line. So if you want to take your axle out, you can take the clip off and free the brake line up so it'll move around, but you've still got to take the brake line apart and bleed your brakes again if you want to pull the axle out. And that's a pain in the ass, especially because I've got a couple different rear ends that I've used over the years, and I don't like bleeding brakes. So do yourself a favor, next time you have the chance, take a grinder and cut yourself a notch there so you can slip the hard line out, and that'll make it your life a whole lot easier when you have to do any rear end work. One other thing I'm going to mention is, I don't know if you can see that or not, that's got a bit of a twist in it, and that's got me a little bit worried because I was planning on using this axle, GSL-SE axle, for another project, and mind you, that is slightly twisted with the stock motor, and just me thrashing on it for a few years. And I was planning on using a different power plant with about twice as much power, and I'm a little bit nervous about doing that now. I might have to go to an 8-inch rear end or something like that. But anyway, that's the video. So now there's one out there for people looking, in case you want to know how to get these bearings off. And they are hard to find. I had to call around to 3 or 4 different parts stores. Luckily there's a few close to me, and then they weren't cheap either. But Benson Auto came through, got me all the parts I needed, and there you have it, folks. See you later.